I think it's important that we take the time to share the positives because there are so many challenges going on every single day and pivots and strategy and when am I going to get that loan? When is it going to get funded? Are we going to be able to make payroll? Are we going to be able to pay our bills? Like, when is this going to end? When am I going to be able to interact with humanity again? Am I going to be able to get more toilet paper because we're almost out? All the things. It's important to take a step back and talk about what's going well. So is there anyone that would like to jump in and share a positive? And that can be in your business. It can be with a client. It can be within legislation that's been very helpful to your practice. Or it can be personal too. Is there anything positive? Anyone is welcome to just jump in and share.
Well, we're starting to see the funds release on the payroll protection loans, as well as the disaster loans. There's a not-for-profit board I sit on that we were notified yesterday on the disaster loan that they applied for, and seeing some clients and us getting our payroll funds, PPP funds.
That's great. Yeah, what I've been noticing, I've been talking to several outsourced accountants recently, obviously in addition to ourselves. And the trend that we're seeing is if you're banking with a smaller bank or a community bank, those banks are making a strategic decision to fund some customers prior to the SBA funding them, which is risky, but I actually think it's a great strategy. There are banks that are getting new accounts just from people saying, yeah, if I can get my PPP loans, I'm more than willing to open an account with you. So they're getting new customers or maybe retaining their current customers by making those, funding those themselves, which is an interesting strategy. It'll be, neat to see kind of how it all plays out. I don't suspect the SBA would not fund them. So if they've got the cash to, cover that delta, it's interesting. We already have two of our clients are opening new accounts with new banks based on them saying they would fund their PPP. So, of course, we're scrambling to switch over payroll accounts and, where deposits are going in and where debits are coming out of. So it's been interesting. That's cool. Anybody else, a positive that they'd like to share?
Go ahead.
For me, it's more on a personal basis. We live near a park, and I think I've gotten to know my neighbors better than I ever have. And we're just doing more interaction, socially distancing in the park and just talking about different things that are happening in their lives. So I've never had that opportunity before, and it's because people want to get out and walk and get some exercise, and it helps that they have their dogs too. But for me, that's been a positive from a personal standpoint.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, because it is interesting that in a time in which we're supposed to be more socially distanced, we've come together more socially. Thanks for sharing that. Chris, did you want to share something? Rizika?
Yeah, we have a client and someone I've known for 20 years who's also a vendor. He does video, it's called Lifetime Video. And he started he has a new package offering, which is graduation videotaping. So of the commencement speakers, of the students themselves. So I thought that was a great idea. He packaged it together. He's already done a couple. And so he's doing some good. At the same time, he's developed a new product line and introduced it. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is cool. That's really encouraging. I mean, it's a current business that's pivoting what they do, but also to meet a need in society. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. It'll be cool to see what new businesses come out of this too. Kim?
Well, I have a contract with the state of Illinois to do special ed mediations, between the school district and the parents. Mm-hmm. And there are 10 of us. And I think only 2 of the 10 are offering virtual mediations or any kind of Zoom mediations. So I have been swamped with all these new mediations all over the state of Illinois because, of course, it doesn't matter where I'm located.
Sure.
And before I only would do Southern Illinois or Central Illinois. Now I'm getting, I have a case with the Lake Zurich school district, in the northern suburbs. So that's been kind of cool for me. A lot of them are represented by lawyers. So it's good for me, for my business going forward. And I'm kind of proud of myself for learning this new technology and putting myself out there to say, you know, like, yes, I can do this, and have had some good success. So that's a nice way that this has turned out for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome. Anybody else? All right, well, let's jump into just kind of the meat of our discussion this week. And I thought last week was great. I mean, we spent almost the whole time really talking through the people challenges and ideas for how to meet those challenges. And we'll likely do the bulk of that again today. And I want to focus on, you know, how do we use 2020 vision? I mean, it's clever from a marketing perspective, using 2020 vision to achieve 2020 goals. But really, I think the substance of this conversation can be quite powerful because, you know, Andrea and I were talking, I mean, we've been talking every day, but over the last couple of weeks about, okay, now that we're starting to settle a little bit into this new normal, you know, how can we really take a step back and assess, you know, what are we doing completely different now that we weren't doing in Q1 of this year, and how we're functioning different, what is that we need to keep, you know, because it's really important, I think, for us to take a step back and do this assessment for our businesses, for us personally. That might be operationally, it might be how we handle money, how we look at money, how we spend money. It might be, you know, how we lead our teams and how often we communicate or how we communicate. I think for the court system, you know, as a whole, certainly this should present opportunities for how we can change going forward to maintain efficiencies. But as we think about the changes we've made, what's really important, I think, is once things start to open back up, it'd be really easy for us to slide back into the way we used to do things because it might still feel more comfortable or more normal. This might feel, the new normal might still feel uncomfortable by the time we're coming out of it. So let's start to really articulate. And I think if we start with that very first question, let's all share what is something we've been doing completely different over the last month, you know, few weeks, that we weren't doing in January, February, you know, beginning of March. How are we operating completely different? How are we communicating differently? How are we leading different? Anyone on the call like to share? Get us started.
I'll share.
Great.
It's not it's personal and professional, but kind of to your point earlier, Jamie, and then this, I've been really not scheduling calls before a certain time and actually working out because I don't have to run out of the house. I can take a first call while I'm still, you know, putting my makeup on because I'm not on Zoom or something, which is good because it's also showed me when and if we go back to meeting people in person, and I do meet a lot of people all day out in San Diego as well, I can still carve that time in. And so I, you know, for years I've made the excuse of to myself, like, I'm just so busy, but I mean, it's just an extra 30 minutes. So that's been really healthy. And it's also helped me focus my time in the morning. So a lot of people who work with me know I get up about 5 a.m. and that's my time to work because, as we know, as business owners and leaders, we don't really get to do a lot of work in the middle of the day. We're meeting, we're checking in, we're talking. And so when do we actually execute on all of the meetings we've had, right? So I do it early in the morning, but I've also figured out I can still do all that work and not dilly-daddle around and get a 30-minute workout in. So that's been a good reset for me. That's been on the docket for 5 years.
That's awesome. That's good. Yeah, it's like no excuses now, right? You don't have to drive to the gym.
Yeah, and honestly, most people on Zoom don't care if you have makeup on anymore. So
true. Anybody else?
I just read this morning on gyms that Gold's Gym is closing permanently all their St. Louis locations.
I read that
along with some others.
Yep. Interesting. Anybody else? What have you been doing completely different now than before?
I'm actually starting to educate myself on other types of programs and things that I have that are outside of my comfort zone. And for me, that's a big deal. So I'm doing studying online and just learning new ways to run products and so forth. So, and IT is one of the things that I get most frustrated with. So I'm trying to focus myself on that area and just become more comfortable with it. So I'm doing that. I'm carving out at least an hour or two a day just to do that, just to educate myself on those things that I don't already know. So that's what I'm doing. Because I love to learn.
What resources have you found that are good for that, Jennifer?
I've been using the LinkedIn learning courses. In fact, they have a whole series on how to use Zoom. I've also been educating myself on becoming a trainer for NetDocs and becoming a partner. I am partner with them, and so I can get ready for hopefully the onslaught of those sorts of deals coming up. So those are the two things that I've been using the most.
Great, thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share?
In undergrad, I used to make extra money by training in the COBOL language. And if you read the articles the last couple of days, that's in short supply now with all this, all these state systems are relying upon that software. So I've kind of jumped back into that and trying to refresh my memory on that type of software system.
Interesting.
This may sound kind of, I don't know, not as important, but I'm really sleeping like on a very regular schedule and sleeping for the most part really well, you know, like I guess it's because your schedule is so reduced.
Yeah.
That, you know, while you still have stress, it's kind of a different kind of stress, but
Sure.
I don't know, I'm sleeping on a really regular schedule and that's good for me.
That's great. I think that's awesome. That's exactly, I mean, that's not unimportant at all. Arguably, it's the most important. We can't function at any level or high level if we're not getting proper sleep. And it's just like the working out. It's like, if I can find the time to do this now and see how it's benefiting me, then we need to keep that.
Yeah, I think it brings a good point. That's what it's really helping me to. It's like it's forcing me to get more into a regular cadence that, you know, again, as our previous life, it was hard to get into a cadence because every day looked different. You know, you might have a meeting here and a window here and travel here and a dinner here and a happy hour. And so every day looked different. So it's forcing that regularity.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that 100%. I'm saying the same thing because, you know, you have the time to do it every day. So you can do it every day and you start to look forward to it every day and you miss it when you don't. And then of course the immediate benefits and the, you know, the longer term benefits. It's kind of interesting to examine that, I guess.
Chris Rizika, what about at Carmody? I mean, it was traditionally an in the office sort of model, wasn't it before? Or did you guys already have kind of remote working environment?
No, you're definitely right. Definitely in the office. And there's still, of the 50, 60 attorneys, there's still about 6 that go in on a regular basis. We have our litigation group meets on a Zoom call every week. And then so does our corporate transactional group. And then last night, every month our firm goes out for what we call billing dinner. It started 30 years ago, where after they did billing, they went out for drinks and cigarettes, and we do that every month. Well, so last night somebody said, let's still do a Zoom and everybody bring a drink. And but you're right. So I think it was difficult for some. And even last night, I noticed even on the Zoom, some people are still having trouble getting on. So
yeah. Do you think that culturally that any of the changes that have been made with the virtual work environment will be embraced after this is all over? Or do you think things will kind of go back to status quo? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's hard to tell, but I think there's going to be the old guard that felt that it only could work if you did it in the office will think differently. I would hope that happens.
So what do you all think in terms of the changes that you think you'll keep as a regular course of business? You know, or what changes do you think you should keep as a regular course of business? like, you know what? Yeah, we really need to keep this. This is, incredibly beneficial to the industry, to our firm, to our business, to society. I mean, I personally feel like because legal back office is a remote work environment and we serve our clients virtually anyway. I mean, even the ones in St. Louis where we could go to their office, we have a virtual work environment for the most part. And I think this supports our model and what we say to our clients, that we virtually can support any client virtually. And it's true. You don't need to physically have an accountant in your office. You don't physically need to have a marketing person in your office. And so I'm kind of grateful for the opportunity for people's eyes to be open to see that, it's true. And that even though we're doing this because it was precipitated by a crisis and everyone needing to find a different way to work, that there are so many synergies and efficiencies that are gained through this type of work model that I'm really hoping that law firms in general start to see the value that's gained from doing digital invoicing, having outsourced accounting services that can be done virtually and not needing a file folder full of receipts. I'm hoping at least some of these things will be embraced long term. It will help support, our model. So, anything else that anyone's seen in terms of changes? Clearly exercising, and trying to keep that. Sleeping well is important to try to keep and not slinking back. What else do we think we need to keep as far as changes that we've made? Or conversely, what changes are you like, this is for the birds? I'm only doing this because I have to right now, and we're going back to the way things used to be. So to weigh in too on the opposite.
I'll add, I'm sure all of us are doing this. We're all picking up the phone more, but I try to make it a point at least to call. It's something I never did before, and not just call, but have a deeper than professional discussion with a professional contact. So I seem to be doing that at least once or twice a day, and it's a nice break. And you're still helping each other, and you're still networking, but it goes a little deeper than just what's going on professionally. And so I'm hoping to be able to continue, but that's not something I made calls, but not to the extent that staying on the call as long as I have with some of these other individuals. So I think that's something that I hope to continue.
Anybody else? Or what do you miss about the way you used to do business that you think you need to get back to? What's something that you miss? Not just yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I'm an extrovert. I'm a hugger. I'm touchy, feely. It is who I am. And while I'm living with 3 other people and I can, be close to them and touch them. Like last night we went to a outdoor memorial service for a neighbor that passed away, not from COVID-19, or at least I don't think from COVID-19. He had stomach cancer, but it was so terrible not to be able to hug the widow, not to be able to look her close in the eye and hold her hand and say how sorry I am. It just felt so
hard
for me. Yeah. So I'm really going to be happy when I can get back to feeling like I can express myself in the way that I feel most comfortable, which is to touch someone's shoulder or give them a hug or whatever. For me, it's hard.
Yeah. I miss that too. I think one of the things that I was thinking of is that while our team works virtually, we were less intentional about when we were physically together. So, there were days when we would end up in the same office, or, we might have a scheduled team meeting. But, one thing I think that I've identified that we didn't do regularly, but we need to get back to it ASAP is those in-person meetings when we possibly can. Like just intentionally scheduled times where we're all together in person, because even though we work virtually most of the time, you just can't place a value tag on what happens, the synergies that happen when you're together. I mean, when I look back on when we all attend conferences together as a team, there's so many great things that happen, obviously for our business, but also for us as a team, and laughter and experiences and, drinking too much maybe sometimes, and like having just the funny stories that come out of that. It's the camaraderie that is so important, but it has to be done intentionally or else it won't just happen. And so one of my big takeaways, I think, is, we do a monthly Zoom call with everyone on our team because we can't always get together in person. And we've got people in Baltimore and California and Tennessee, and we've got people even in God's country of St. Charles that don't want to drive into the city, So, but, for those of us that are close by, we need to make that monthly meeting in person. And then, people that are obviously remote are remote, but there's just something you just can't, underestimate, I think, the value of people being together in person at least every once in a while. So that's one of my big learnings during this time is I'm going to be more intentional about getting people together. Is there anyone that would share, are there gaps that you've identified during this time that aren't yet addressed but need to be? I mean, I couldn't believe, I was talking to someone recently that, they still have to physically go into the office to get bills out, to prepare bills and get invoices sent out to clients, paper invoices, like stuffed and mailed. And it just surprised me that that's something that hasn't been prioritized yet. And now that, people do have a little bit more downtime, I think we talked last week about what do people do in their downtime? Well, take on those projects or those initiatives that, need to change in, or processes that need to be changed, but they haven't yet, hence the flood to NetDocs potentially, and people needing a document management system after this is all over. But is there any gaps you all have identified, that things that haven't changed yet, but they still really need to? One of the things, one of our clients we've been talking about for the last year and a half is them changing banks. They're still with a really, really small town bank that doesn't even do remote deposits, if that tells you anything. This isn't a small bank like, a local credit union, or even Commerce is still a fairly big brand, even though it's regional. This is like a tiny, tiny bank. And we're like, what? There's never a good time to change banks. It's a huge pain in the ass. Let's just do it right now. So that's what they're doing. They're changing the bank. They should have changed it a long time ago. It's resulted in when you have to have someone physically go to your bank to make check deposits, that's a huge inefficiency. It's a waste of time, especially when you can just be scanning those things in your office. And especially during this time, now you've got exposure, because the person who does deposits has to physically go to your office to get the checks that have been, brought from the mail. And so that's, I thought I would share that's one thing one of our clients is doing. Okay, we're ripping the Band-Aid off. We're changing banks. We're just doing it right now while we've got the time, and let's just do it. Anything else you all would share? What gaps still exist? Maybe you're not doing anything about it yet, but you need to. What gaps are still out there in your businesses that need to get addressed?
Jamie, one of the things and group I've been encouraging our attorneys to do is to take this time, not that they have a lot of extra time, but to update their contact management, their contact list. They may have a holiday card list, but they still don't have the email. They're sending just a snail mail. So, I know there's definitely gaps with some of our attorneys where you say, oh yeah, send it out to your clients, your contacts. I don't know if I can get that together. So I'm encouraging them and their admins and their paralegals to take this time to update your list of contacts, so that when you're in a situation like we are now and you want to quickly get messaging out, you can. We don't have a CRM system. As we all know, most CRM systems don't work effectively in law firms, and there's those that they do. But I've encouraged our attorneys, because I know there's gaps there as far as not being able to quickly communicate with your clients and your contacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gosh, Chris, that's so funny that you say that, because as Jamie was asking the question, that's exactly what I was thinking is a gap that I have, that just almost can't force myself to do, but really need to do. So that's a great one.
Anyone else? How about, as you've been considering your goals for this year, I'm sure everyone's been pulling out their strategic plans and blowing off the dust from them to update them for the year, right? Andrew and I were talking about this yesterday. We're like, this is such a good time to be pulling out the strategy and looking at it and saying, does this still make sense? Or how do we need to adjust? How do we need to pivot? In our video business, how do we need to capitalize on the opportunity that we have here? I was pretty impressed with how quickly the film industry pivoted and started offering, you can rent for 24 hours for $20 these movies that would otherwise be in theaters. They're giving up some revenue with the popcorn and the soda and all the things, but I was like, for technology and for an entire industry to pivot that quickly, that was pretty impressive. And I think there's a lesson in there for all of us, to be saying, okay, how are we planning now to still, achieve our goals for this year? So maybe share with us, I know Kim has shared something she's been doing, just by doing the mediations online when they wouldn't otherwise be done virtually. How are you planning to try and still achieve your goals this year? Does anyone have any thoughts? Or maybe you don't know and you want to just kind of throw it out there to the group to get some input or some ideas from their perspectives.
Yeah, we haven't seen much of a drop yet in our actual income, so we're still trying to figure out, what exactly is going to happen with that. It's, some would like to just go back to normal, but I don't think we're going to go back to normal. But we really don't know, and that's the biggest unknown and the biggest issue for us right now. It's trying to figure out, I'm pretty sure the income is going to drop. It's just a matter of when and by how much.
Right.
And for how long, for that matter.
Yeah. You have another firm I've been interacting with that, their cash flow is good. They haven't seen a drop yet, but they still instituted they did the PPP loan and they instituted temporary pay reduction across the board for every employee. With the hopes that they can return that amount to them, just to give themselves that extra cash cushion they're like, it's just a matter of when, right? And how much is that going to look like? But if we wait to get our arms wrapped around expenses until then, we may not have the cushion that we need to be prepared for that time. So that's kind of how they're planning for it, is we don't need to cut expenses right now, but we're going to, just to try to be proactive. And then we'll circle back and pay people, what they essentially invested into this time, if and when we can. Anybody else have any unique ideas of how you're still trying to achieve goals this year? Or are you adjusting? Are you just saying to hell with it, we just have to pivot and adjust the goals? Or we're still gonna really try to push through and get to where we wanted to go? Or we're not sure how we're going to do it. Or you could say that I'll be transparent. I'm not sure how we're going to hit the growth goals we really wanted to hit this year, just because we see a little bit of a slowdown in our growth. We're fine financially so far. I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for our current clients and them being in a solid cash position. But if we can't really grow the way that we wanted to grow, how do we start thinking differently about that sales pipeline, and who we're servicing and how we're servicing them? So we've been having all kinds of conversations about, do we offer limited scope marketing services that are at a lower level than what we were doing before, where we can at least get people going in the right direction, but at a smaller monthly fee instead of the bigger full marketing service fee. Same thing with accounting. Can we be competitive with what we're offering from an accounting perspective? Because we don't do a la carte accounting anymore. We only do full service accounting with outside of tax. So we do the full service, and you can't kind of piecemeal and say, oh, we just want you to do bookkeeping but not invoicing. Do we start rethinking that a little bit? And we're having all those conversations here internally. And then how can we set ourselves up for at least getting the momentum that we need at the end of the year to knock the goals out of the water next year, and what does that look like? And one of the things that I came up with just in the last week is I'd never developed kind of a leading indicator measurement on my business. So, for example, Kim and I went through the process of how many mediations does she need to do a month to get to where she wants to be financially. In our business, we've got so many different service offerings. We have goals on, we want to build 24 websites in a year. We want to do 18 strategic plans, blah, 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 blah. Right? We have all those, but I didn't have anything for my pipeline. So how many pipeline of potential opportunities, what's that dollar number that I know is going to keep us going in the right direction? So I kind of took a step back on what are we measuring from a dashboard perspective and a key performance indicator that we know is going to drive business. So for example, how many consultations do you need to have to get to the revenue level that you need to be at? Because you retain this amount of clients based on how many consultations you have, or new matters. How many new matters you need to be opening every single month to get to those growth goal numbers? So I just thought I would share that is maybe there's a way to take a step back and look at your strategic plan and your goals. Is there a different way to maybe measure those goals that might give you a better indication of how you can get as close to them as possible by the end of the year? So not just hours, not just capacity, but maybe there's something more on that front end of, okay, we know cases are slowed coming in the door for new retentions. How can we pick up the phone and call current clients and maximize, what those clients are doing, or the availability of doing work for our existing clients? That's sort of the things that we're doing here at Legal Back Office to plan for trying to hit those goals this year, or at least get good momentum at the end of the year to hit them next year. Anybody else, how are you planning and accounting for hitting goals this year? And if there's no more to share, that's totally fine too. We can go into the next thing. Just thought I would make sure everyone had the opportunity. I thought we haven't done this in a couple weeks, and I thought it would be neat to do some more resource shout outs since it's been 3 weeks since we started. I'm sure everyone, I appreciate Jennifer actually sharing up the LinkedIn like free education opportunities. I've been seeing those pop up in my feed. So LinkedIn, I think, is probably pushing those out to us. And that's a great way to just get educated during this time with some of that available time. Are there any new tools or services that you all have been using that you've found to be really helpful and invaluable? Obviously, we're all capitalizing on using Zoom and video conferencing. Any other tools or services that you guys have bumped into that have just been really awesome?
Well, I'll throw out, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
No, go on.
I'll throw out somebody, it's an obvious one. Believe it or not, some of us still get the hard copy of the Business Journal or various industry publications at our office. Somebody said, if you just call them, they'll start delivering it to your house. And so, that seems so obvious, and there's no additional cost, and it just is a phone call. So that's a suggestion somebody made to me. And I thought, even though I read most everything online, I still like to get some periodicals and some of the industry trade magazines and actually get a physical one. So if you just call the publication, most of them will start delivering to your house.
I was going to say that for me, because I have been so dependent on Zoom, the tutorials that they have, and they're short, which I really appreciate, and I think they're quite good. It's helped me a lot to feel like I know how to use the technology, and I've been describing myself as the Yoda of Zoom.
I love it. Let's put that on the LinkedIn profile.
But when I get on a mediation, think about it. I've got clients, clients on both sides, attorneys on both sides, and their tech savvy level varies greatly. So I'm teaching them to be able to participate and to do this in a meaningful way. I'm teaching them how to use it. And of course, I need to make sure I know how to do it so I can teach them how to do it. But I find their tutorials to be really good, and I'd encourage you to look into them. They're short and easy to follow.
Great tip. My resource shout out actually is HubSpot. I actually think there's a lot of CRMs out there that are great for law firms. Oh, there's a new one, by the way, Chris, that you should look into called Lawmatics. Lawmatics is a intake software and a CRM. There haven't been any really true CRMs for law firms that I found. You have to find an actual CRM, but that's not built for law firms for it to work the way it should work. But Lawmatics, look into that. But HubSpot has been really invaluable for me, even though I'm in HubSpot every day since I, lead most of the client development process. Something that's been neat for me is the way that I've taken notes in the past, I'm so grateful for. So I found, or it was sent to me, the Secretary of State of Missouri, is now allowing virtual notarizations and e-notarizations. There are some hoops you have to jump through in getting certified to be you do so. And, so there's lots of hoops to be able to do the notaries virtually. But they're at least allowing them now. But you have to jump through the hoops first. So I thought, you know what, I should send this out to my estate planning friends. And I was able to go into HubSpot and really quickly search, estate planning for my practice areas and in the state of Missouri. And it filtered out this nice little list of 20 different, lawyers. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to email each of these lawyers personally and just send them the link and say, you might have already heard of this, but thought I'd send it to you, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of them is, someone I've been talking to for the last year about working legal back office. And I got a really nice response saying, oh my gosh, good to hear from you. Yeah, we're aware of that. And I just want you to know I haven't forgotten about you. I want us to move the conversation forward and what we could do to maybe still work together. Boom, right? Like, that's not why I was sending the emails. I just thought it'd be kind of nice to reconnect with people. And I was grateful for HubSpot's ability to make that process easy for me. And they were one-on-one individual emails. I didn't do a marketing automation email because I don't think that was appropriate. But I just thought I would share that with you all too, that aren't using a CRM in trying to build even your referral network. Using a CRM can make your life so much easier for your referral network in setting reminders and tasks, and you can send emails through HubSpot. It tells you when someone's opened the email, so they've at least engaged in seeing your email, and keeping notes of the last time you talked and what you talked about, so you can refer to that conversation. And for those of you that are building a big referral network or already have a big referral network, the HubSpot base model, I used it for over a year in legal back office, and that's free, the free version. So there's a lot of functionality in HubSpot if you're a small business, and you can use that free functionality. It's not an intake software for law firms, just to be clear. It's truly a staying in touch with their referral network with potential clients, especially if you're in like corporate law or something like that. It's probably more applicable or appropriate than plaintiffs type work. But it's a neat software. So that tool, even though I use it regularly, it's been really invaluable for me over the last few weeks, even just in different ways than I used it before. So I thought I would do a quick shout out for HubSpot. Anybody else? Any tools or resources that have been really important to you and critical to you?
One tool that I've always been a fan of, but it's useful, especially now, is Lynda, Lynda. But similar to LinkedIn, it has just a bunch of free tutorials on different softwares that you might use. So even if it's as specific as learning how to use an e-signature, software, or using InDesign or something like that. And usually they're free actually with a library card. So if you have a membership to the St. Louis City Library, at least, I know that you can get a free login to use all of their tutorials for free on a pro account.
How do you spell it again?
Lynda.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, cool. To wrap things up here, does anyone have a good quote, limerick, joke, meme that's just rocked your world that you can even share your screen and show it to us? Hit us with it. Hit us with your good coronavirus stay home order memes?
I do have a coronavirus joke. I can't remember if I told you guys or not. They've come up with a diet for Corona-19.
Oh yeah, what is
Imo's
it?
Pizza. You slide it under the door.
Ah,
Great one.
Okay, that's all I got.
I like that one.
I have a non-coronavirus joke.
that's okay. Hit us with it.
What do male witches have? Halloweenies.
Oh,
Oh, of course this CMO on the call is like, Andrea, this is being recorded.
yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
we're going.
Everybody laughed.
we do have those editing tools we could use.
Well, my cat's been sitting here next to me the entire call, so I'll just bring her over here. She always has to be right where the action is.
Okay, I thought this was kind of cute. But it's in line with Andrea's, but not so raunchy. Okay, prediction. There will be a minor baby boom in 9 months. And then one day in 2033, we shall witness the rise of the quarantines.
Oh,
Get it?
that's good.
I think that's actually pretty funny because I feel like I've heard of, no fewer than 5 baby announcements in the last week. And, not surprising, I guess. So we'll probably start seeing more and more as time goes on, right? I want to show you guys this too because I think it's really cute. It says, update, not all sports are canceled. Here, I'll share my screen with you guys because it's really cute. Hold on. Hopefully it'll show okay. Can you see that? Update, not all sports are canceled. I thought that was really cute. I don't know if you guys have ever watched this sport.
Yeah, curling. Right?
Curling, yeah. I just thought that was hilarious. So anyway, well, on that note, thank you all again for attending this week. I think this has been great just to be able to share knowledge and hear about the challenges everyone's going through at the same time, share resources. And I think this is a real opportunity, right? How can we use 2020 vision to still achieve our 2020 goals? I mean, it's really important, especially I think in firms that have been traditionally run and operating under a very traditional model, traditional meaning in the office, physical, paper, all the things. I mean, this is a great opportunity for us to take a step back, and within the industry too, and the court system, to say, maybe doing virtual mediations makes sense as more the normal instead of the exception, or the rule instead of the exception. Maybe we can actually do criminal matters over a virtual environment in a more regular sense, so we don't have lawyers driving all over the place, clients having the cost it takes to get someone that's incarcerated from the jail into the courtroom and then back. I mean, it's are there alternative ways that we can really think about going about business in our industry that we just would have never even thought of, or we never would have crossed that bridge had we not been in the situation. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to say, okay, now's the time to not be mailing out those physical invoices anymore. Now's the time to be having that automated intake system. Now's the time to really be thinking differently about what we need to keep going forward. And I really appreciate it. I know what Jennifer said earlier on the call, that how can we really embrace this new way of building relationships too? So as we've gotten to know our neighbors more, maybe gotten to know each other more intimately, our peers and the people on our team, let's not lose that. When we go back to the hustle and bustle and busyness of life, let's not lose the self-care importance of sleeping well and exercising. And let's not lose those personal conversations that Chris Ruzicka mentioned. When we pick up the phone and call people, let's not lose that asking them how they're doing, even when we're beyond the season of time, because those truly are the things that really matter and will help us to get through this time more positively, but help us to embrace, I think, those positive aspects as we go forward. So Thank you all again, and we'll see you.
Thank you, Jamie.
next week. Have a
Thanks,
great day.
Jamie.
See ya.
Thank you.